giving us your attention. Thank you so much for joining us. We have finally arrived to our very final interview. We have a super special guest tonight, and thank you once again. If you're exactly in a month, and we'll be teaching fantastic workshops. Hi, Mauricio from Toronto. Hi. So good to see everybody. It's been my pleasure doing these lives. It's been a lot of work, but I've really enjoyed it. I'm going to say my thanks to all the wonderful volunteers who worked alongside with me. So tonight we have a super special guest, the guy who kind of started this whole craziness with us a few years ago now, and he is hi Belgium. Wow, it's late there, early in the morning. So good to see everybody again. So yes, we have none other than Gabi Campanario tonight, and I'm going to summon him because I just saw him saying hello. Gabi, where are you? Here.
Hello, Rita.
Hi.
How are you doing?
It's good to see you. It's been a while, right? We just chatted yesterday.
Well, it's been a long time since yesterday. Lots of things have happened in the world. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, of course. So for those of you who might not know, which I really seriously doubt you don't, Gabi Campanario is the founder of Urban Sketching Movement. He's the reason, well, he's not the reason I drew, but he definitely is the reason I became so passionately involved with urban sketching. I started looking at drawing as a way to tell stories, to kind of look at the world with this journalistic lens, because that's what he encouraged us to do when he put together the famous manifesto, right? We tell the story of the world one drawing at a time, and we draw from observation. And my life has never been the same. I know he has changed many fates as well with this decision to start the movement, to have the first symposium in the city where I live, Portland, Oregon. So this is going to be our 11th symposium after a long break, but we're finally coming back together. And tonight we're actually are going to interview each other because we're both urban sketching instructors. We both teach for USK, but we're both coming to the symposium to actually give talks, lectures, we call them. I will also give a sketch, and we both will do a demo as part of the symposium programming. So those events are open for the public who is joining us with a Sketcher Pass. So you can buy a much cheaper pass if you don't want to take workshops and just come to attend other events. There's always something happening all day long, almost all night long. So there's this fantastic lectures, presentations, demos. There will be demos by sponsors. There will be drink and draws. There will be all sorts of social activities, sketch crawls. So all of this is being planned for the 3 days of the symposium. It's going to be really intense. It's going to be incredibly fun. And Gabi, I will shut up for a minute so you can have a chance to say something to our audience, who I'm sure would love to hear from you. So you're coming, and we're keeping you super busy. You're as much as you deserve to just kind of come and enjoy this event at this stage. You're going to be busy, so tell us what you're bringing with you to 11th Symposium.
Hi, Rita. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to tune in. It's late in the evening here in the Pacific Northwest, in Seattle and in Portland for Rita and I. So thanks for taking the time. I'm really looking forward to the symposium. I can't believe it's been 11 years. Sometimes it feels like it was yesterday when we were getting started with this. Sometimes it feels like it was a long time ago. I remember when I started Urban Sketches, my wife used to joke that we had 3 kids, or 2 kids, and then the third one was Urban Sketches, because it certainly took a lot of my time. And now my own kids are in college, so that's how long it's been. So in Oakland, I'm going to give a lecture, kind of looking back at the history of Urban Sketchers. It's been 15 years. If we go back to 2007, which is when I started a group on Flickr.com called Urban Sketches, where I started posting my drawings of Seattle, where I had just moved the year before. So that was 15 years ago. No, that was 16 years ago. And then the next year is when I started the Urban Sketches blog, where I invited all the artists I had seen their work online and I admire. I kind of put a proposal to them via email. Hey, why don't we share our drawings on this platform? That was 2008, before Facebook, before Instagram, before Facebook was big. I mean, Facebook already existed, but it hadn't taken off. So the blog became this hub for passionate sketchers to share our work, just like we do now on Instagram. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of that and also the symposium. This would give me also the opportunity to put in context how the symposium happened. In 2009, that was basically a year after launching the Urban Sketches blog. I was invited to a sketching event in Spain, in Zaragoza, organized by Clara Marta Moreno. And Clara has been a pioneer and of these type of events in Spain, and a great advocate for drawing and drawing from observation and drawing in sketchbooks. She's now organizing an event called Cuaderno Fest, which I recommend everybody to go on Instagram right now and look Cuaderno Fest. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Cuaderno means a sketchbook in Spanish. And that's happening in Zaragoza every year. And I think they just announced the plan for the upcoming gathering, which will be in July. So I went to this event invited by Clara, and it was like an eye-opening experience, to see other sketches. I'm on the panel of artists invited, where folks who I had already invited to join Urban Sketchers, like La Pen in Barcelona, Simonetta Capecchi in Italy. So we met in person there. And when I went back to Seattle, I was invited to actually teach a workshop in Portland at Pacific Northwest College of Art. I told the school in Portland, I said, well, instead of me just coming to teach a workshop, why don't we have more sketchers? And we make this a bigger event. I was just in Spain, and we could do something similar. So that's how the first symposium got started. The organization had just been registered as a nonprofit, so that gave us a little clout in front of the school to show that we were not just a bunch of artists, that we were serious. And the person in charge of the special education, the continuing education program, was really receptive to the idea. So I don't want to give the entire speech here, but that's what's been in my head. Right. And I have the whole history. You have to monitor my time here, but since you invited me to do this talk, you sent me on a nostalgic trip down memory lane. And I found that box of Urban Sketches memorabilia. Maybe some of you have it too, right? Where you save your pins? Your tickets to the symposiums, or your pins, or things like that. So I found the brochure from Pacific Northwest College of Art from 2010, and there is they did a double spread for our first symposium.
Oh wow!
2 pages, and I was like, over the moon. Oh my God! And here we have La Pen, drawings by Veronica Lawler, drawings by Tia Boon-Sin in Singapore. They sent me all these drawings, and then I sent them to the school, and they basically made our event part of their official programming. Should I keep showing memorabilia? Yes. Should I keep going with my
nice of them? Give us show us something else. Okay. One more.
Well, if I have to choose one more, I'm going to choose this souvenir, drawing by Gerard Michel. Gerard Michel
Oh.
is the architect and a sketcher from Belgium, from Liège, and he did this little drawing, and yeah, I just treasure it. I have it in
Of
this little frame.
Portland.
So thank you, Gerard.
That is amazing.
Okay, I'll save the rest of the memorabilia.
Thank you.
So you can ask me more questions or whatever.
Well, so you're giving kind of a retrospective view of the history of the movement of the last 15 years, which is still hard to believe that it's been this long, but your kids have now are now almost, well, the second one is almost off to college, and how do you feel urban sketching? Is it also kind of a teenager at this point? Is it more of a young adult, or?
Oh, I think Urban Sketchers as an organization is grown a lot. It's like in such a short time, it's become really wise, and look at what's happened. You know, I mean, the fact that we are having all these symposiums. I was just seeing on Instagram a photo from Pat in Singapore. He's one of the administrators and coordinates the administrators of the different chapters. And apparently they just had a Zoom meeting today or earlier this week. Or
yes, this morning
too, and I was like, wow, look at this. I could have never imagined that. So I think Urban Sketches is a thing now, is a real organization. But there's still a lot of work to do. I mean, we have to remind people all the time, this is a 100% volunteer run effort. So we are not a university. We are not business with revenue that allows us to do many things. It just all depends on what volunteers want to do and where they want to take this organization. So it's a matter of just passing the baton. You put in your time and offer your, like I did at the beginning, I put in my time, and then you pass the baton to others, and that's how it will keep going. And hopefully people see the value in that, and in volunteering, and then giving back, giving back from what we have all gotten.
It's 100%.
I mean, it's also changed my life. So I think we all benefit from it in many ways. So it's important that everybody kind of finds a way to give back.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it's an important point, because everything we've talked about in this series of interviews, all the people we've interviewed, all the people who are putting this event together, they're all 100% volunteers. All of the instructors, all of the presenters, all of the people who are putting in hours and hours of unpaid work just to kind of make this a success. So it's super important to remember. And of course, thank you all for your support, for stepping in and volunteering in your local chapters, for thinking about or having already done some service for the organization, and of course for making donations, and for watching us, liking us, supporting us. So it's all very much appreciated. And of course, sketching. So Gabi, this interview has always been, show us your amazing drawings, show us a tip. The demo you're doing, the symposium, you are doing a demo, and I believe that it's already full, it's already sold out, but the demo you're doing has nothing to do with drawing, which is fascinating. What is it?
The demo I'm doing is about storytelling, and storytelling through sketching. So it's not a demo meant to offer you any drawing tips. I mean, of how to draw, how to compose your sketch or techniques. It's not about that. You have heard the saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? Everybody, I think every idiom, every language probably has that saying, right? And I subscribe to that idea. I believe a picture can be worth 1,000 words. I also subscribe to the idea that a picture plus 200 words is worth 100,000 words, So yeah, 100,000. So
100 words.
And then 200 words at least is worth
words.
Even more.
Okay, at least.
So my demo is geared towards every sketcher out there who has an interest in stepping up their game as writers, every sketcher who wants to step up their game in combining narrative with visuals in a way that tells a story powerfully. So that's what I'm going to talk about.
That's wonderful, and it doesn't have to be in English. Obviously, it's in the language that
Right.
feels
Everybody,
natural for
yeah,
you to
exactly.
write in.
Everybody
I
can
assume?
write in their own language, but I mean, we all. I was saying this to folks who subscribe to my new On the Spot newsletter on a Zoom this week. We all write, whether we want or not, throughout the day in so many ways. We write emails, we write Instagram posts, we write text messages. So, of course, writing a good blog post or a story or vignette may feel more overwhelming because it's like, oh my gosh, I have all this information. How am I going to put together? But you can lower your bar and just give yourself smaller assignments to sharpen your writing. I'm going to try to just every time I do an Instagram post, I'm going to try to put a sentence of two that makes more sense, that says something about the drawing that people will enjoy it and appreciate it. So those are the tips I will give on my demo.
Wonderful. So at least, so here's Gabi's
50
tip,
words.
right? At least 50 words.
Just practice the 50 word
and
caption.
As far as it's something that I always get my students always ask me, what should I write? I spent all this energy making a drawing. What should I write now? I'm lost for words.
Right. Think how would you describe what happened to a friend, or like somebody also, another tip that people give is like, just write it as if you were writing an email to a friend, that kind of lessens the pressure of crafting a masterpiece. I mean, if I had thought that I was crafting this amazing manifesto when I was writing it, I would have frozen. But because I did it almost like kind of more spontaneously, I think that's perhaps why it became more effective. I didn't overthink it too much. Right.
So don't overthink it. Just write as if you're writing an email or writing something that you do throughout the day many, many times. And as far as this is a very visual program, Gabi, if you could show us something, how your writing can interact with a drawing, the way you do it as a journalist is just works very organically.
I mean, as far as showing you stuff, I'm going to show you something just that you may have seen, or you can also see on my Instagram. Just writing as a journal on your sketchbook. Like I have this pocket sketchbook. This was in New York in November, and I just did this sketch. And at the end of the day, I fill in the blanks with things that happened. So this is a good exercise, just to kind of write around your drawings, and you can just do like freestyle writing. You don't even have to write about what the drawing shows. You can just write, I have a crappy day, like kind of journaling writing, which is more free and not polished, right? So that's one way to then one way that I do that a lot. And sometimes I do it and sometimes I don't. I mean, sometimes I may just do the drawing and I don't write anything because I'm tired, So it's okay. You can give yourself some permission, but other times, it's just, again, those 50 words at the bottom of your spread. So that's the kind of writing that I like to do just for myself. That's not writing for publication, like my demo is kind of geared towards people who want to publish their work. They are good sketchers already, and they kind of maybe are trying to find a purpose for their drawings. It's like, I have so many drawings, how can I maybe publish them in the local newspaper or in a magazine, So that's what I've done for many years at the Seattle Times. This is one of my magazine stories. And
so this is not the newspaper. This is a magazine.
Yeah, this is
as a supplement.
Is the newspaper Sunday glossy magazine. So basically, during my career as a sketch columnist, my column has moved around the paper. Sometimes you started in the local section, then you moved to the feature section, then you moved to the magazine. So, but the format has always kind of been the same, where I have my writing and I have my drawing. So this kind of writing here may only be 200 words, but it takes time to make every word count. You just kind of keep polishing the test until there's no one more extra word that's necessary. I think what happens with writing is, I also like to do this myself, even with emails. It's like after I write an email, I go back and read it again. Is how many words can I cut? And it's like a game. It's like, and you realize, oh my gosh, I can say the same thing in half the words. Then do it. Say it in half the words. Otherwise, you're wasting time to readers.
Wait. We want to add words at this point. You're already taking them away. That's the next step. Well, Gabi, thank you so much.
Okay.
We're gonna switch roles now because Gabi is going to interview me real quick. But while we're switching virtually roles, we're gonna stay just the same way where we are. If you have any questions for Gabi or about urban sketching, about writing, about storytelling, about anything, he knows it all. He's in a good spot to answer any questions, and if you think of them later, please ask.
Okay, so now I have to put on, literally speaking, my interviewer hat. Well, Rita, tell us about your demo, or your, I hear you. Well, I've been admiring the panoramics you've been drawing. You were in Istanbul and did this amazing panorama over there and in other places. What draws you to this kind of type of drawing, and what are you gonna tell your participants about it?
I think what draws me to panoramas is the view, right? It's the being in a spot where you can sort of see layers of the city you're looking at in the way that it interacts with the natural environment where that city happened to be based. So I like it. For the first time, whenever I come to a place, is always kind of take this bird eye view of what the place looks like, because sometimes, especially if you're in a very dense, this happens a lot in the old European cities, you're just surrounded by buildings and your perspective view is very limited. I mean, your perspective angles are amazing. Which, by the way, I try to avoid as much as I can, drawing very complicated perspectives. So maybe that's another reason to love panoramas, is that you don't have to worry too much about perspective angles.
That is correct.
I have, so you mentioned the Istanbul. When I was there in August of last year, I did happen to have this concertina with me. And here's a funny story. I thought that I was sitting in a place where I was looking actually at Asia, because Istanbul is, some of you might know, connects European continent with Asian continent. So I was thinking, oh, I'm looking across the body of water and I'm looking at Asia. So I was drawing Asia from my vantage point, and I thought, and then the second part of this book will be Europe, because I will cross the bridge and look at Europe and draw this, and it will be a wonderful way to kind of tell the story of geographic location of the city. Of course, I was completely ignorant, but fortunately, I showed this to many locals, and one of them complimented me on the drawings, was very sweet, and said, hey, by the way, this is both sides are Europe, so you have to go a little bit further to actually see Asia from there, but you can't see it from here. So that's a funny anecdote that can happen. So it is important to kind of check your check your perspective against what people in the place will tell you and what they know, which is something that I usually always do is I like to chat with the locals and try to kind of get their sense of, you know, how I'm looking at their place, at their country, and whether I'm doing an okay job
With
understanding what I'm
Panoramas,
looking at.
certainly you have to know where to go to find that amazing view. And I know you may be too shy yourself to promote your own work, but I am pretty, I don't mind showing your amazing panorama on this book that we worked on together. Uh, so,
Oh yes,
yeah.
I'm
So,
sure you've
so
you've
this
looked at that
amazing
one.
panorama of New York, how did you got that one done? How long did it take you? How long were you up there at the on the rock?
Yeah, so this is from the iconic Rockefeller Center, and as New Yorkers call it, the Rock. So I've sketched it a few times. You can sort of change positions and try to stitch it together as much as you can. You get vastly different, you know, you can actually see a different state, the state of New Jersey from there. And it kind of showcases the density of the city, obviously the Central Park and all those things, but it also showcases how the the land mass also works, you know, how waterways
I
work
love the
around it and so
panoramas and the
on.
way you do them because you couldn't get that wide angle with the camera unless you had a wide angle camera. But this is the beauty of sketching, right? You can see around the corners and pan, right? Around.
Yes, yes, you can sort of fudge certain things, and that would be also part of the demo will be to talk about you obviously won't be able to draw everything. So what is it that makes it in the drawing, and what things are critically important that you include so that you actually represent a skyline of New York versus a
So
skyline
are
of
panoramas
Istanbul.
something that you always have to almost do a skyline, or like if somebody lives in a city that doesn't have mountains or big skyscrapers, can you can still do a panorama at a street level, right? And you've done that, right? How does that work?
Yes, yes. Um, that's it's a little bit trickier, especially if you're in a very dense place. So it helps to at least find maybe a river or some sort of a separation. So there's a field or something where you can get a better view of things. But you can sort of um, create this feeling of a continuous um, drawing. Um, and this is something, here's another example. And I don't just draw in this giant concertina type things, but since we are talking panoramas, this is not really a panorama, but it was a project of Camino de Santiago. So I was walking from town to town, and I was meeting different characters. I was going and sort of sketching things that I saw in each town and in between as we were walking and doing the project. So you can sort of create this type of panorama. It's not a skyline. Obviously, it's not the same place. In fact, it's 184 kilometers walked in between. This is arriving already at the final destination. So this is another, I suppose, kind of a approach
To the format. I
to the
love that
subject.
format and
Yes,
the folding sketchbook because then the panorama becomes a timeline and a narrative right from beginning to end. So the drawing,
exactly, exactly. So it's not the continuous place, but it's sort of
right,
the
right. As your
continuation of time.
journey progresses, it reminds me of this book. Oh, now I won't find it back here, but I do have it back here. But it reminds me, speaking of the symposium, of Murray Dehertz from Auckland. He did a concertina sketchbook of a bike journey along the island, and he put it together as a book. And it kind of the same concept, you just follow your story, sketch along your story, and stitch all these vignettes that make the whole story come together. It just gives you a built-in flow for your narrative. So I love that. I think that's wonderful. I think that's a specific. I'm sure everybody's gonna love learning that technique from you. So. And speaking, go ahead.
Well,
no. Speaking of the Camino, that's also going to be
ahead.
the topic of your lecture.
Yes, well, actually, a skit sketch. So in
Right,
as opposed to lectures, there are some of us who will be giving very short 6-minute 6 minute and 20 seconds, I believe. So there will be very short, kind of condensed, the getting to the essence of some sort of a sketching issue or experience. And mine is called sketching while walking. And that's exactly what I did when I did this project is lots of walking and lots of sketching, sometimes almost simultaneously. So that would be my short presentation that I will be giving.
That's great. How do you sketch while you walk? You have to stop, right? Or were you walking?
Well, you're a marathon runner. I want to see you sketch and run a marathon one of these days.
I'm never going to do that.
That would be
spectacular. Keep my two hobbies separate. yes.
Impossible. Do you know there is a guy, right? You know who I'm talking about, who does the running
the
and
illustrator,
sketching.
the German illustrator, Christoph Niemann did it at the Berlin Marathon. He walked and sketched and stopped to sketch, and I think some other people have done that. But I think I don't know. I think it would be pretty. Just as a story, it would be kind of a fun to do it, but more as an without having to be inside. This other French sketcher, Aurélie Bourdain, who I've written about in On the Spot, she also documented an ultra run race in La Réunion, the French island, and it was one of those ultra races where the runners run 100 miles or more. But she was not running; she was doing the sketching, which doing both things, I think, would be too taxing. Right.
Hey, there's always a new challenge. Gabi, somebody had sent a question for you, so I'm just gonna switch roles again for a second. And let's see, Shrikan Sketches asks, have you also tried writing first and then sketching on top of the writing?
On top of the writing. Wow. Well, that's a concept. No, I've never tried that. I like to see somebody who does that. The writing, when we do writing by hand, the writing becomes the art on the page. That's a whole nother approach.
Mm-hmm.
And in that sense, it doesn't even have to be legible, right? Because it just feels like artistic, So I think that would be an interesting technique to blend the handwriting with the images. As far as the storytelling, I used to do a lot of more notes and handwriting in my sketches, even for the paper. But when they were printed for publication, people couldn't understand my handwriting. It's just hard to read, So that just doesn't work in that context. If you're going to publish your work with the words handwritten, you just have to make sure you have a good legible handwriting. Because people want to know what you wrote,
So it's not like a doctor's, but it's something that I think when we see a drawing and it catches our attention, we always want to kind of. I always look for writing. It's almost like intuitive. I want to know more. I always look for that little blurb. There was a little question for me. How much time do you generally take for panoramas? So this one was kind of it was quick, but it's also pretty long. So it was over the course of maybe 4 or 5 days. I would work from the rooftop before it would get super hot. And then the second side I actually did a lot faster because I was about to leave, so I had to go a lot quicker. And this guy is like actually 2 meters long. I can't believe how long this thing is. it's super awkward to operate on location. I've had some funny things happen with like the wind blowing it out and it falling down in the middle of a church, because there's a lot of like cathedral sketches at the end. So this one took the length of the project, which was about 9 to 10 days.
Am I still interviewing?
Well,
I'm sorry. I want to do a good job, but now I've lost my.
we broke
the system.
the system.
I wanted to ask you also in the panoramas. You incorporate people, right? How do you go about that? Especially in the, do you just like draw the people that catch your eye, or?
So there in the little one, I don't have a ton of people for the Skyline. It's a little bit hard to include people unless sometimes somebody's looking out the window. But for this one, which is not a Skyline, it just happens to be in this format. Yes, people were, especially I was just fascinated, and my colleagues in Santiago de Compostela were laughing at me because I was fascinated with the modern day pilgrims. I wanted to know why they were doing the walk, because as we know, this used to be the reason to sort of seek repentance and seek eternal forgiveness, is to do the walk. But these days, why do people do this? So I wanted to capture them, of course, as they're resting. Once they arrive, they just kind of lie down, take their shoes off, expose all of their blisters. And so that was the main reason. That was kind of, for me, the most interesting thing. We have another comment or question here from Mauricio. Could it be possible that the urban sketchers community can have access to the workshops by recording videos? Yes. So we talked a little bit about this. Let's see. Yesterday, when I interviewed Amaro and Virginia, which seems like a long time ago, but unfortunately, fortunately, symposium workshops are just sort of there for the people there in time and place. We will, however, probably be recording the rest of the programming, so the lectures and sketch presentations. So those will be available, I believe, for free on our channel. So watch for those. Well, Gabi, is there anything else?
I had another question about your concertina sketchbooks. How do you go about blending one scene with the next? Because I think that would be hard. Okay, you've drawn this segment, and then you're going to start another one. And I don't know, do you overlap the lines, or do you leave a little wider space? How do you do it?
So I have one advice on how not to do it. And that is, it doesn't work because the concertinas have these panels, right? So the natural instinct is to kind of do your drawing in the middle of each panel, which doesn't really work to kind of create this continuous organic feeling. So what I try to do, and maybe you can see it here, is to actually start drawing on the fold in the middle. And then the way of drawing this kind of the gradual fade out of detail, of color, of information creates this natural edge. And maybe there's some sort of a color or some sort of an element that could pick up from where you left off and take you to the next scene. So that way they're all separate, but they're all kind of
so basically kind of
together.
Forget that you have a vertical square for each panel, and don't get carried away by, okay, these are my limits, my edges, that way it becomes, that makes sense. Right? When I have to
start drawing
on the fold.
On the fold, even though it feels very weird at first, but I think it makes it easier to kind of create this organic continuation.
Maybe I'll try one day.
hey, maybe next month in Auckland
right.
when we're there.
I think I would,
do concertina.
just the feeling that you start and then there's so much accordion to feel, anyway.
Hey, you can be less let's see, ambitious. This is
Nice.
a friend of mine gave me this.
I can handle
would this
that.
be doable?
Save one of those for me, Rita. I want one of those.
Okay, we'll do. All right, we have one more question for you, Gabi. Do you think the sketch goes top-sided by adding text on one side? So I think they're asking if the sketch feels kind of uneven if you just have text on one side.
I think it depends. Boy, that's a good question. Because of many years working as a graphic designer and laying out pages, I kind of have a sense for composition of the balance between the text and the image, So sometimes there's spots where the text feels more right on the left side of the page, but sometimes it may be the right, sometimes it may be the bottom. I think a good ratio of image versus text, you can go wrong with let's say, a page that is 75% image, 25% text of the real estate on the page, I like to keep the image still the dominant art on the canvas, and the drawing and the writing be an accent.
Yeah, although the first example you showed us in New York, it felt like, it felt, the composition felt really good, almost like the text was squeezing the image on both sides.
And there are other ones that may not be as successful, well, this one has people and it has the drawing here, and it's funny because sometimes I still have a few more thoughts to write, and then I put an ellipsis, and then I write the rest up here, because I run out of space. That happens sometimes. But it's, again, this is just my personal sketchbook where I enjoy doing that. Just, it doesn't have to be perfect by any means, and sometimes it can be just a small caption, a small note, so I don't have any others that show what I mean, on this one, my writing is just a caption up there, that's all.
Well, there's no wrong way to do it, but Gabi encourages you to write at least 50 words, right? And not put much pressure on yourself.
If you want to, I mean, if you want
best results.
Group of sketches, I'm not saying people have to write. It's funny because I still get asked many questions about what is an urban sketch, and can you finish it at home? Does it have to be finished on location? And I don't know, maybe I didn't do a good job of creating guidelines. I was specifically vague enough at the beginning of urban sketches, because I didn't want people to think that we have hard and fast rule. It's all about capturing a sense of place and time where you live from observation. So it's not, we shouldn't overdo it.
That's it. Well, thank you all again. Thank you, Gabi,
Rita.
so
Looking forward to
much
seeing you in
for
Auckland,
joining.
seeing you here in Seattle
for this
Monday.
For this conversation. I wanted to say that I've been very lucky to be the face of this interviews, but there's a huge team of volunteers working behind the scenes. Christina and Maria on the social media communications team have been side by side with me, creating all the promos and helping with all the troubleshooting. And of course, there's a fantastic team in New Zealand who's been working tirelessly, meeting and finalizing all the details of spaces, of places to go, of answering everybody's questions about travel, logistics, and registration and tickets and all those things. So I am incredibly lucky, privileged to be part of this family of volunteers who are working on this together. And I hope to see many of you in Auckland, and then if not, in other places at other symposiums. We still have some tickets left, so join us. As you hopefully got a sense, it's been, we have a fantastic group of international stars coming to teach, present, share their knowledge, wisdom, tips, and so on. So please join us next month. See you there.
Bye. Thank
Bye,
you, Rita.
Gabi. I have I have a little demo that I will play for you once Gabi disconnects. I think I'll be able to find that video. So stay tuned. This is me sketching this skyline of Istanbul.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.
Ciao,
Bye.
ciao. Bye. So here we go. Please enjoy.